So now we come to the biggest change for the world of online streaming. Um, when we're in this environment, one of the things that's really difficult and distracting for people at home is where things don't run smoothly. So, whereas in a normal service, it's fine to have some distractions, and you can kind of laugh off if you say, "Now the notices." Oh, no, 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 sorry, there was a video to play, wasn't there? That kind of thing. Or if you kind of mess up a bit, tripping from one thing to another, or you're not quite sure what's coming up as a service host, you can get by. It's okay. The trouble is online, that actually creates quite a big distraction for people, and we've got guests from all over the world actually now joining us on a regular basis. So we're trying to provide a lot more support to enable the service host and the worship team, who are kind of the performers, so to speak, to kind of know exactly what's happening, where we're at, what's coming next. And the way that we do that is by giving them a completely different display, a completely different view. That's why we've got, first of all, this stage option here. The stage display is live. You can turn it off, turn it on again. That's also why at the start you helped to set up that stage display video output and set up the ATEM control correctly. It allows people in the room to see things and not necessarily just what's being broadcast. It's also why we have on the desk this new box called a Stream Deck. This will be helpful for you. You'll see as we go through the details in a few moments that there are a number of different ways you can change what goes to the stage display, and you can do it entirely as you personally prefer. But for some of us, having the stage display controlled separately by separate buttons is going to be really nice. So we've bought one of these Stream Decks, which helps to control what goes on stage. That's also why on the monitor on the left of the screen, you've got different things being shown. And we'll give just a little bit of an example. I'll fast forward into the middle of a worship song. You can see that the main output that's going to broadcast is shown here. That's the same as what we're seeing on our right-hand monitor called audience. But on the left, you'll see that that is what's being sent to our separate stage display. So you can imagine how useful that is for a worship team on the stage. As we go through the song, they see our current verse and what's coming up at the bottom. So that moves through. It's really, really helpful for them. They've got a clock there as well. And it's not sort of compressed into a small box. It's actually quite hard to see when it's on one of those screens. It's much, much easier for them in a worship set. And there are three kinds of scenario or points in the service where the stage display comes incredibly handy. The first is in a set of notices. So we'll look first at that, then we'll look at videos, and then we'll look at worship, and we'll just note the things that are kind of really handy about having this stage display for people who are running the service. So the first scenario is notices, where as someone who's hosted services, I can tell you it's really easy to get completely lost in what you're talking about and the kind of bits, oh, don't forget to say this, or what's coming up next. So this really helps us. You'll see here that on the audience display, they're getting the advert that we're currently talking about, the notice. But in the mind of the host, it would be lovely to know what's coming up next. And actually, we do have on the stage display a note, and I'll show you in a moment how notes work. But you can see on your own monitor on the left here that we've got the notice that's going to broadcast. But going to the stage display is this. So top left, there's a clock, really handy. It's saying that what's going now to the main screen is the nice slide there. Don't forget that the people at home don't see the green, it goes transparent. But then underneath, there's notes that the service host has added for themselves as an aid memoir. So Coming up next is IKTV Challenge and blah, blah, blah. That view of the stage display is incredibly helpful, and you'll see on the Stream Deck you can adapt how that looks. So you could actually make it the notes underneath bigger by pressing the big button. So that's really, really easy to read. So that's the first scenario where having the stage display is a absolute boon for people on stage. The second scenario is if you're running a video. So let's come into running the IKTV challenge and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to click play on this video and off it goes. It's playing away. We can't hear it, but that's okay. We know there is sound because we've got these bars bouncing up and down. Turn over to the screen on the left. You will see that you've got the broadcast is, as you'd expect, it's filling the screen and all nice with the video playing. And on the left, you've got the clock, the video, and above it, an automatic countdown timer. This is incredibly helpful, both for the vision mixer and director and the host on stage, to know when this video is going to finish. It reduces stress. It helps to keep things less distracting for people at home. So that's the second scenario in which having the stage display is absolute dynamite. And for videos and things, you don't have to set this timer. ProPresenter is just counting down the seconds that are left on this video. It's doing it automatically. And the changing of color happens automatically as well. So you see it's just gone red for the final 15 seconds. So that is another scenario, the second scenario, in which the stage display is enormously helpful for everyone in the room running the service. So let's have a look at the stage display things for talk. Here, it's often helpful for a preacher to be able to see their slides, ideally the current one and the next one, and some notes they might have added. Not everyone does, but it can be done. And then also to have a timer, really, really helpful up on screen. So here's the ways you can do this. So sort of, as is often the case, of two different ways you can do this. Personally, I quite like planning everything, including the timer, and then being able to forget about it. So in that scenario, at the top of the talk header, I would click this gear icon here, give the name talk timer, select the timer called talk, and set it. I'm going to set it for 15 minutes. There we go. And now when we start the talk, I would go trigger. Let's bring up Anthony's name. The timer is counting down. He's going to bring up his first slide and move through the slides as usual. And I would use a different stage display, which provides a view for the preacher of those sort of variety of different elements that they need to see. So this setting here is one that includes the clock, the timer, the current slide, and the next slide, together with any notes that we've added for the speaker. I'll show you in a moment how to add the notes to the slides for the speaker. You can do it to anything. You can do it to notices and name slides and things like that to give people advice. It flashes up on the screen for them. This countdown will now run automatically. It will change color. I think it changes color at 5 minutes. It goes amber, and at 2 minutes it goes red. And you don't have to worry anymore about the timer. I'll show you the second way that you can set timers. If you don't want to put it into the header of a section, then you can use this timers button up here. This is, you'll kind of remember from those drop downs, we had a drop down of 3 options: talk, countdown to, and elapsed time. Here's where you can see firstly where we're at. So we're at 13:30. You could pause that, you could reset it, you can stop it here, and do all sorts of things to it manually yourself. And then here's the last thing about setting up before we look at how the Stream Deck works, which is the messages. So you can send messages to the stage. So here's an example of one that we had to use quite recently. It's to send a quick correction message to people where there was quite a major error in information given out to people. So what we had was a situation where the host was speaking, and we needed to flash this message up to them. And I'm just going to clear something, and then I'll just show you. So we had slides up like this, and someone realised that we'd announced the wrong time. So we quickly typed this into the stage display box here, and we clicked show. And what that does is it flashes first the message up on screen, and it leaves it up there. And there is a stage display message box at the bottom of every layout. So anytime, whatever you've got going to stage display, then you can do so. It does then stay up until you manually remove it. So you can hide it and it goes away. So that's quite handy for some situations. We've done it sometimes telling people what's up next. If it's a bit of a confusing kind of service order, if we've made changes just before we go live, that stage display box is really, really helpful.